What's up everybody, it's RobinGaming here. So the PS4 is only 1 week away in North America, and it's gonna be 3 more weeks that we've gotta wait here in Europe. And yeah, what that means is that we've gotta say goodbye to our previous console, to the PlayStation 3 in my case. So I thought it would be cool to pretty much share you my story about the PlayStation 3, about this generation of gaming, you know, which were the games that I played a lot this generation and that I really have some good memories of that I can share with you. So yeah, I mean, the games that you're seeing in the background here are actually 6 games, I believe. 3, I gotta say, are of the same franchise. But yeah, why I'll get to that in the video, but you'll probably understand which franchise I mean by that. But I gotta say that before starting with this generation in 2008, before like buying my PS3, I used to be a pretty big handheld gamer and not a console gamer. Like, I've probably said this before in a video, I believe, but you know, I used to play a lot on my, when I was really young, on my Game Boy, and then it kind of went from the Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance to the Nintendo DS to the PSP ultimately before I got my PlayStation 3. And why was that? Well, it's pretty simple. I got my PlayStation 3 in 2008. Right now I am 19 years old, so when I got my PS3 I was 14 years old, and up to that time I just didn't really have a lot of money, of course, because I was really young, and you know, consoles were always very expensive, and at the same time I really liked handhelds because I could always have them with me wherever I went, you know. So yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of consoles at that time, but that was probably because I didn't really play a lot on consoles. I used to have a PlayStation 1, I used to have a Super Nintendo, but I didn't really play a lot on that. It was just my handhelds that I played a lot on. But something really strange happened in 2008, and I had a few friends, you know, a few really good friends that I always talked to, and I think it was about 3 or 4 people that I talk about now specifically. So it was the summer holidays of 2008. You know, I was still very happy with my PSP that I played a lot on. I was very happy with that. Played some games that I really liked, like Pursuit Force and stuff on the PSP. I was a really big fan of that. But then I got back to school after the holidays, and all of a sudden, these 3 friends of mine, which I hadn't talked to in about 3 or 4 weeks or something, I hadn't talked to them about it. But they came to me and they all told me that they had bought PlayStation 3s. And I was like, what? You know, individually, they all told me that without even knowing it from each other. Like, it was just all of a sudden they had all bought PlayStation 3s, or they all had them in the house for their family or something like that. And I was like, what? What's going on there? You didn't tell me you wanted a PlayStation 3. And I was just surprised. I was baffled about that, you know. And yeah, I mean, ultimately that meant I also wanted to get a PlayStation 3, of course, because you know what happens with these things. You just want to play with your friends, and they were all playing on their PlayStation 3 at that time, so I just had to get one as well. So I had been saving up for my PlayStation 3 a few months. I used to have a sort of like a part-time job that I got money with, and it was October the 28th of 2008 when I finally got my PlayStation 3, about 3 days after my birthday. So you know, I'd been saving up for it, and like I said, on my birthday, of course, I also got a lot of money, and I could finally buy it. And I'm a bit ashamed of saying this, but the first game I had on my PlayStation 3 was a Harry Potter game, basically because I was just a big fan of that, you know, of that whole series at that time. So I got, I think it was Harry Potter 5, The Order of the Phoenix or something. Actually was a pretty decent game, I gotta say, but you know, still, that's not the kind of games that I play nowadays. Also got Ratchet & Clank, I think, a month later. That was, of course, a really good game. But I really started getting into gaming with Mirror's Edge, a game that came out about at the same time I got the PlayStation 3. I had been playing the demo at my friend's house, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. You know, that concept of a first-person game that was about free running and not a first-person shooter, you know. It was very unique, and I just really enjoyed playing that game. It was so great to play. I said this in a video before, you know, but it is a real achievement for a game that has maybe, I think, 8 hours of unique content. Like, the single player takes about 6 or 7 hours to complete, and then there's time trials and stuff which are pretty much based on the same areas in the single player. But still, I've been playing that game for a few hundred hours. It was so much fun to me, and it really got me into gaming. Like I said, I just really enjoy that, and that's pretty much why I can't wait for Mirror's Edge 2, which they announced at this E3. You know, the potential for that game, you know, an open world that they promised, multiplayer with other people. I absolutely can't wait to start playing that, if they do what I think they are doing or what I hope they are doing. Because yeah, Mirror's Edge, I have some really good memories of that game. Actually tried getting the world records as well. That's how much I was into it. I got 2 world records on 2 of the time trial maps. So yeah, I don't have those anymore now, but I used to play it a lot, so I could, get those world records, and it kind of like, tells you how much I love that game. I absolutely loved it. So 2009 came along, and it started off just really well with Skate 2, a skateboarding game, of course, that I bought. And I gotta say, that game just felt like one big holiday. It was set in this very sunny city of San Venalona, I believe, and I used to play a lot of multiplayer on that game, and people were always so very friendly there, talking through the headset and just having a good time with each other. And yeah, it got me into multiplayer for gaming, I gotta say. I started really playing multiplayer games with Skate 2 because it was just about having a great time on that game, and I probably put a few hundreds of hours into that game as well. But yeah, it was May 2009 where I really got into the franchise of this generation for me, and you all know what franchise that is, Uncharted. Now, I went on a school trip to France, and I had about 20 euros with me that my parents gave me to get food and stuff. And I was in this game shop with a few classmates, and yeah, Uncharted was laying there, the first Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, and somebody told me, yeah, that's a really good game, it's a really fun game, like adventure type, Indiana Jones type of game, and I checked the case of the game that was lying there, and I saw some of the images, and I thought, yeah, I should really play this game, and it was exactly 20 euros, I believe, and yeah, so that just made me spend those 20 euros on the game, and I actually had been walking around that full day without eating anything because I had spent my money on Uncharted, and right now I definitely don't regret making that decision because that whole franchise has meant so much to me this past generation. I really like the first Uncharted. Unfortunately, no multiplayer, but it had a great story, and it really, I was really impressed by it, the graphics as well, and it got me very hyped for Uncharted 2, which would come out by the end of that year. And of course, Uncharted 2 to me still is the best game of this generation. I mean, the single player was just absolutely fantastic. I loved how it was like one big journey going from one point to the other point with smooth transitions, if I can call it that. It just went from chapter 5 on, from Naples on, all the way till the end. It was all in one go, and it had great characters like Lazarevich and Flynn, these villains that aren't in Uncharted 1 or in Uncharted 3 that I found really funny, and just Lazarevich was just frightening and stuff, and Jesus, some really good character design. The story was great, and the multiplayer, I mean, I wasn't really into the multiplayer for Uncharted 2, I gotta say. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. I played the demo, the beta, a lot, and I probably still put 100 or 200 hours into the multiplayer for Uncharted 2, but it wasn't as fun to me as Uncharted 3, but I'll get to that very soon. The end of 2009 also was about Modern Warfare 2 and Assassin's Creed 2 to me. Modern Warfare 2 was the first Call of Duty that I played, and at that time people weren't really hating on Call of Duty as much. And I mean, I gotta say that I really enjoyed Modern Warfare 2, also put a lot of time into that. But after that, Call of Duty went kind of downhill for me, just as it did with many others. And Assassin's Creed 2, exactly the same story. Really enjoyed that game. Probably one of the best games of this generation, just a great setting overall. But after that, with Brotherhood and with Revelations and 3 and 4 now, I'm still not impressed by the decision of Ubisoft to make that in an annualized franchise because, it just kind of got boring to me, I gotta say. 2010 still was a great year, of course. One game in particular, Red Dead Redemption, which I really, really enjoyed. Again, the setting and the vibe of these games are what really, stays by to me personally. And all the time when I remember games like that, I just think of the times just walking around there, especially in Red Dead Redemption, just walking around in the desert or with a horse or something. Some of these tunes playing in the background. I just have some great memories about that. But I gotta say that after that, gaming went a bit downhill for me personally. 2011 was promised to be one of the best years in gaming ever. I absolutely thought at that moment that it was gonna be, after that I didn't need to buy any games anymore because the 4 games that were coming out at the fall of 2011 were just insane. You had Uncharted 3, which came out, the sequel to my favorite game of all time. You had Battlefield 3. I had always been a big Battlefield fan, and the trailers of Battlefield 3, these bombastic trailers with this great music, and the graphics were insane and stuff. I really thought that, you know, there couldn't be a better multiplayer than that. Skyrim, I wasn't really into RPGs, played Dragon Age, and I really enjoyed that. But still, many people said that Skyrim was going to be great, and I thought, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be enjoying that. And then there was Modern Warfare 3. Like I said, Call of Duty went a bit downhill for me, but I still thought, you know, it's a sequel to Modern Warfare 2, a game that I really enjoyed. But all in all, 2011 just turned out to be a pretty big disappointment to me, because Modern Warfare 3 was probably the worst Call of Duty ever. Skyrim, even though many people really enjoyed it, and I'm not here to talk crap about Skyrim, because that game is great. You know, the open world is fantastic, great soundtrack, but the gameplay to me just felt really boring, and all in all, I just couldn't play that game because it was too boring to play, even though what they did with the world and stuff was fantastic, absolutely. Battlefield 3, they promised a great campaign, but it didn't deliver that. The multiplayer though was great, I gotta say. Battlefield 3 was probably the least disappointing game out of all of these to me, because yeah, that multiplayer, I've been playing it for the two years to come after that. And then Uncharted 3, I mean, yeah, the single player was just disappointing, I gotta say that. It really felt this time around like they took these locations that they wanted to use and they wrapped the story around that. And I know they did the exact same thing with Uncharted 2, they actually say that's the way they make their games. But still, in Uncharted 3, it just didn't feel right to me. It felt like they were going from France to Syria to Yemen to blah blah blah, all these locations, without any real story that wrapped this together. And yeah, I was just disappointed by that single player, especially like the villains, you know, Talbot and Marlowe, definitely weren't as great as Flynn and Lazarevich. And yeah, I just gotta say that the Uncharted 3 campaign was just, even though it was still one of the best single players you can play, it was just disappointing compared to Uncharted 2. And with a sequel, I expect a better game, and Uncharted 3 just wasn't that in terms of the single player. The multiplayer though, many people have some complaints with the multiplayer overall. I know, yeah, a lot of people do, but still, I thought the fun factor for that game was just great. You know, I really enjoyed playing the multiplayer for Uncharted 3, and it still probably makes Uncharted 3 the most played game for me this generation, because I've probably put about 500 hours into that. It's really insane, because yeah, like I said, the fun factor was definitely there, and I really enjoyed playing the multiplayer. But I gotta say, gaming just went a bit downhill, you know, for me personally. And not that the quality of these games weren't great, because that was the case, definitely. You know, like in 2013 we had games like The Last of Us and GTA 5, Bioshock Infinite, Battlefield 4. We had Far Cry 3 in 2012, and those were fantastic games. Don't get me wrong there once again, but just, I don't know what it was, but gaming kind of, it lost something for me. It was pretty much the same thing that I had been playing already in 2009 or 2010, but just slightly better. Well, it was probably because I never really was into console gaming, and those first few years playing these games of different genres that did different new things, they just blew my mind. And the games at the end of this generation didn't do that to me, because they were pretty much the same thing as those old games, but a bit better. And I gotta say that. So like, all in all, it's been a great generation, that's for sure. I mean, like I said, the games that came out have been fantastic. Also at the end, I really enjoyed playing The Last of Us and GTA and Bioshock and stuff. But yeah, it's the games of 2009 and 2008 and 2010 that really stayed by for me. Those were the games that really introduced me to gaming a lot, or a lot more than the handhelds did. And I gotta say that those are the games that I have the best memories of, all in all. But still, that's why I can't wait for the PS4, because I hope that it will once again just blow my mind with the first few years of games that will do new things. So I really hope that will be happening. So please let me know, what are your best memories of this generation? Which consoles are you saying goodbye to? Did you get an Xbox this year, or this generation I mean? Did you get a PlayStation 3? Did you get both? And which were the games that stayed by so much for you personally? You know, which were the games that you really enjoyed or have the best memories of? So please let me know that, and then I want to thank you a lot for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.